Thank you, everybody, for that. So I heard a lot of great things about, the preparation of STEAM. Shout out to Articulation Agreements. You could find our Articulation Agreement podcast on YouTube right now. Shameless plug. Podcast 101, hashtag Articulation Agreements. So we're going to start. I want to go a little bit deeper into it because everyone seemed to have a flawless transition, except as the guidance counselor. I know for some of you that's definitely not flawless. So I'm going to ask each and every one of you to present your biggest challenge so far when you left STEAM and your biggest success. Starting with Ms. Barrett.
Crazy. Like I said, my biggest challenge was getting into that film program because, like I said, they don't let freshmen. It's only like a 5% of juniors that get in, and it's like mainly seniors. So that was like my main challenge of like for college.
You can do them both. You can do both challenge and success, yeah.
Okay, so my biggest challenge was it was more so personal because I lost my mom high school year, senior year, and I didn't really know how to work the college process. So it was kind of hard, like as also social wise. So yeah, but my greatest success, right?
Success.
I'm sorry, I have a bad headache right now, and I'm just trying to push through it. My greatest success was this internship, actually, because I work in the guidance office with Mr. Teitelbaum. I am trying to be a social worker, so I always liked and enjoyed psychology, so when it came to college, I was excited to start my internship and get that work-based experience. So with STEAM, I was able to, intern here, and it has been a great opportunity and experience, and I love it so much.
Yeah, so with me right now, I would say a challenge that I have faced would probably be like doing what I want to do. Like once I got into college, because like after I graduated high school, my parents was asking me, "What do you want to do? What do you want to be?" And they're trying to get these like high expectations out of me, and I wasn't really sure because all this time they had kind of like trying to pressure me into what I wanted to do and like try to be a doctor or whatever. But that wasn't for me. So like after like trying to find out my own path and what I wanted to do exactly, which is now like going into the film industry and working on projects and things like that with actors, I would say my biggest success. Wouldn't really categorize that success. I put it more as like milestones. I would just be more in like the circles of actors and like people within the industry already. That's the milestone I have for myself right now.
My biggest challenge was actually going through basic training and EIT, which took about 6 months because I had to be away from my family for that long, and I'm close with my family, so that was a challenge for me. And my biggest success was actually getting through my first semester of college after being out of school for a year plus.
Pretty much in terms of my biggest challenge, I think I would say primarily my time management, because I feel like it's just a huge aspect about anyone's life, especially for those that are trying to pursue something that they're passionate about since the beginning of time. I mean, in terms of scholarship that I tried to achieve, in terms of the 5 clubs that I'm currently part of in the school, including National Society of Black Engineers, one thing I'll say for sure is that when you dedicate your time according to each different type of aspect of your life, it's just one thing that I always try to plan out every time since my freshman year of college. But in terms of my biggest success, I would say probably my biggest success is that I'm managing my time even currently to this day, because it's just an ongoing process that I tend to encounter more opportunities, whether it's a different job, whether it's a different internship, whether it's a different networking opportunity with a higher up person within my field. I mean, one of the things I say for sure is that definitely do your research in terms of what you're passionate about, because as much as I would say like, yes, I want to be an automotive engineer, more specifically, I could say that I want to be an automotive product design engineer or automotive test engineer. There's plenty of different brands that's able to identify those different types of things. And if you could pinpoint that earlier, at a very earlier stage in life, you'll be able to dedicate yourself even faster.
Wow. I don't know. Oh, this is going to sound horrible. I think that my greatest challenge especially immediately after graduation, was remaining humble. And I think that there are a lot of factors that go into that, one of them being just my disposition. But then after receiving the quality education I had, and after receiving all of these certifications and doing all of these activities, I kind of walked around City Tech with this arrogantness to me. And at times that could be a little destructive, especially during my earlier classes and during my courses. And I often had to remind myself that, even though STEAM prepared me well, I'm still a student and I'm still here to learn. And I think that it's important to recognize that we'll always be students and there's always opportunity for growth and development. And I think that personally, my biggest challenge was reminding myself that, there's still room for me to grow and that there's still room for me to develop. And also, not being afraid of failure, not being afraid of messing up, because I had such this high expectation put upon me by myself after, doing such an amazing job and, being here at the STEAM Center. And that's for my greatest success. I would say it's being selected as a participant in the SVA Success Via Apprenticeship Program. They weren't accepting applicants because of the COVID-19 pandemic. They didn't have the budget for it, and I was not accepted immediately after graduating. But I got an email back sometime after, in the middle of the pandemic, that they were interested in enrolling me, which I'm very grateful for. But the program is really selective and it's really competitive, and I'm just blessed and really grateful to say that, I've been teaching and I've been leading my own instruction since the age of 19 and 20. Who else can say that they've been teaching since a young age, and who else can say that they've had the opportunity to be mentored by experienced pedagogues and had the opportunity to work in their field with, respected, chefs and people in their industry. So.
For me, immediately after graduating high school, one of my biggest challenges was just to stay focused and actually staying motivated, because I was in a state of confusion and I didn't know which direction I was going in. I had an idea of what I wanted to do, but I didn't know what's the first step to take. I mean, I was in college, but the college process was very difficult, and it kind of just seemed okay, I'm here, I know I want to get a degree, but am I really learning? I wasn't as interested as I thought I was gonna be. But since then I've gained interest and I've gained motivation. But that was one of my biggest challenges. One of my biggest success now is, I took that step and I went out, and I got more involved as far as internships, and just working and being successful in all of those things, working at the STEAM Center and having an internship with nanotronics and being a full-time student and business owner is a lot, but I'm able to, be successful in all of those things. So I would say that, that's a great achievement.
My biggest challenge, just a second, what was his name? Dante. What he said, I also left with a lot of big expectations for myself. I was very scared of failure. I still am, but I'm working through it. During that summer, right after graduating, summer of 2022, I was lost. I was able to get back myself, but it could get rough if you let it be. You need to surround yourself with the people that you love and that know you and that want the best for you. Being a first generation student also tackled me down, because it's oh, I can't really go to someone and tell them hey, I'm going through this, right? So that was my biggest challenge. My biggest success was being back here, being able to assist my mentor and the person that I'm so inspired to be, Miss Actor, and being able to tell my students hey, yeah, I'm doing this, and you could also do it. My students always tell me oh, how do you do that during high school? You did so much. And I tell them, don't say that. I know that you could do it too, and that's how I'm able to uplift them as well, because I know that if someone tells them that, they're also going to be looking out for a future for themselves. And I'm very grateful that I'm here and being able to inspire all the young people, just like I was inspired when I was a student here too.
One of my biggest challenges soon after graduating STEAM was actually not getting into the construction union of my dreams, which was the electricians union. And what that did, that threw a fork in my plans post high school because I didn't want to go to college. I didn't think that college was for me. So I thought, you know, I'm going to be a union carpenter, a union electrician. And unfortunately, the pandemic struck right as I graduated, and what that did is that really limited the amount of seats available in those unions, right? So, you know, right after graduation, it was difficult assimilating to the real world because I had to go straight to work, whatever I could find, whatever I could scrap up. And one of my biggest successes is leveraging the STEAM network, right? Reaching back out to my principal Price, having that conversation that led to that handshake, that led to me being in the construction shop today, providing value to these construction scholars every single day. So that's my biggest success right now, is being in a position not only to continue learning about how to teach and about the construction trade, but also to bring value to, you know, students that were right, you know, whose shoes I was in, so I could really relate to them in regards to their experience. So that's my biggest success thus far.
I really like that, showing success and just like helping the students. That was really nice. My biggest success was getting those certifications for my machining class. I felt like it was one of the biggest challenges in a class that I faced almost ever. But it was just things that I liked, things I was interested in, and I found it like almost second nature, that like it was easy and I could like do it. It wasn't easy, but I got through it, through the challenges, and actually succeeded and got what I needed. And I felt like that was really uplifting to me. And throughout that time, I became a new me, and I was like, yeah, I like success. I like going through all the failures all of my life and just landing in a good zone, right? And one of the most difficulties after graduating STEAM is staying consistent. I don't think it was motivation or anything like college. It was just consistent, whether it's getting up on time, whether it's going to the gym, whether it's eating healthy, anything like that. Consistency, you always need it. Without consistency, it's almost impossible to have success if you're not consistent. So that was my greatest difficulty after STEAM.
So 2 more, maybe 3. We'll see how this works. So how did you figure out what you wanted to study in college? Sometimes paths are very linear, and sometimes they're not. And so sometimes people change their minds 3 or 4 times. So if you don't know yet, that's okay. But maybe you could share your thought process on deciding what you want to study.
Okay. Well, I chose mechanical engineering because I'm really into the automotive industry, whether it's cars, transportation, anything like that. I found it always interesting, and I was like, okay, this is what I want to do. And when I get there, I'm going to be happy with it. Not knowing that throughout the time of getting there, I wouldn't be happy with it. I'm dealing with math, physics, and a lot of courses that just don't like fit what I like doing. And it's definitely like a difficulty, but I think I could still get through it. But I've always kept in mind like a secondary source, something to fall back on. And I think if I do fall back on that, I'm taking classes that, like, for example, I'm in sociology. Why am I in sociology? I don't know. But that class could be helpful for me if I ever decide to fall back. Like, I was always into, like, the psychological aspect of a path, right? And I was just like, maybe one day I'll go into psychology. And I did take a psychology class. I take a lot of things away from it, and I always want like not a plan B, but definitely like a pillow to fall back on if I fall off of plan A.
For me, what really got me to pinpoint my college major was the internship building the tiny house project with Full Stack Modular here in the Brooklyn Navy Yard. Working on that project, I think summer of 2019, what that did for me was show me the exact role that I like to play on a site. And when I spoke to the foreman in regards to what would you call what I'm doing here, right? Helping move materials, helping set people up for success, helping actually frame things, build things, right? Basically being part of a team that gets this project done. He told me a construction manager. So what that did, that clicked in my mind that, all right, whatever this job title relates to in regards to a college degree, that's what I want to major in. So, you know, along with working after graduating, ended up going to City Tech, majoring in construction management for 3 semesters from that internship experience that I got via STEAM.
For me, since I was a kid, I always knew I wanted to follow something into technology. It wasn't until I got to STEAM until I found out which specific part of technology I wanted to be part of. Once I started doing projects here, I started gaining different types of internships throughout my 2 years, different projects that I created, presentations that I also gave. That made me figure out where I wanted to go, and that was the main reason why I'm going to John Jay for computer science. So far, it's going pretty good, and I'm getting work as I was doing here. It's not as hands-on because it's college, but it is feeling into it. Like, it feels like the career that I imagined it to be.
When making the decision to pick my major, which is psychology, I was really just focused on the fact that mental health is something that's very important. And I feel like mental health in youth and not only adults is very important because as a young person, like, I go through a lot and I didn't feel like I had the source to kind of, you know, talk to someone. I didn't know that I had that available to me, especially because I had a very unique, during the time that I was like going through a lot of mental health issues was in high school. And I had a very unique high school experience, you know, with the pandemic, being home. And that transition was very difficult for me. So I automatically thought, like, I have to, you know, even be a single person for that change. So moving into that, you know, it was a pretty easy decision for me. Yeah. Oh, sorry.
If you were to ask me what I wanted to be when I was younger, I would have told you a marine biologist, then a fashion designer, then an artist, a painter, a museum curator. And, you know, it would change weekly, sometimes daily. And as it does, you know, that's normal. But as I aged and, you know, as I entered my senior year, I felt pressured to select something. And I don't necessarily agree with that. But I had to do some self-reflecting, and I realized that what was I good at, right? What did I enjoy doing? And being in STEAM, I developed this intense passion for cooking, right? Cooking has always been a part of my life. My family is from the South. I was born in Bennettsville, South Carolina. So food and community have always been staples, you know, in my upbringing. And that was just, you know, bolstered by my time and experience here at the Brooklyn STEAM Center. And so when it was time to apply to colleges, I, you know, spoke to my guidance counselor and I said, well, I don't have to go to college to be a chef. I'm already have my certifications. I've already have work experience in the kitchen. But then I decided that it would be really helpful for me to further my education and learn more about the managerial side of hospitality management, which was one of the key factors why I decided to major in it at New York City College of Technology. But then also logistically, I had the articulation agreement, which meant that I wouldn't have to take certain classes, right? I received scholarships from some of our partners like Wegmans. I received scholarships from CCAP. One of the professors at City Tech was actually aware of me and gave me a tour of the campus, the department, before I had even graduated high school. I had all these connections and all these, you know, signs telling me to enroll at City Tech for hospitality management that I really just couldn't deny it. And I think that I'm lucky that I was able to really hone in on what, you know, I was great at and what I enjoyed doing, and then seamlessly transition into post-secondary education using that.
For me personally, automotive has honestly been my bread and butter. I mean, my first toy that I ever played with when I was a baby was a Hot Wheels car. And pretty much involving that point on, I felt like it just continuously kept instilling me that aspect of automotive in general. But how it really became a passion was through all the inspirations that came from like movies like Fast and the Furious, for example, R.I.P. to Paul Walker. One of the biggest aspects about that car in specific is the way how he spoke about it. And I was really just trying to find out different differentiations in terms of automotive industry in general. I mean, you have the journalists out there, you have the enthusiasts out there, you have the engineers out there, you got the business aspect. And really, I was just trying to find ways to just mend it all together. And coming straight out of STEAM, for example, one of the things that I was always looking for was the college lookup. And it's very rare, honestly, to find a bachelor's degree that deals with automotive specifically, because the only main matriculated aspect of what the journey would have looked like is I would have went to Bronx Community College to get an automotive technology degree, then take another 2 years in Farmingdale so I could do an automotive management technology degree. And in general, I was just like, it didn't make any sense because conceptually, I really felt that automotive engineering should start from that first college. So when I was just doing more of a lookup in terms of that, that's when I first started in Farmingdale. And then as I mentioned before, and during the orientation, Mr. Robert Adolson, I always love you, great professor, hands down. He truly gave me the real aspect of why automotive wasn't gonna be the only thing I'll end up doing. And that's why I said that the dual degree became so important, because that really gave me, I guess, a better background and a better pathway to how I understand automotive in that sense. As one of the previous alumni had mentioned, involving CNC work, I work with Haas TM1s and Haas TL1s on a constant basis, that now I can say that I'm getting a micro-credential in computer-aided design. And also I'm gonna get another one that deals with computer-aided manufacturing. So then I had to make a lot more differentiations from others, because not only was I going to be doing a bachelor's degree in automotive management technology, but now I'm doing a second bachelor's degree that deals with automotive, not even automotive in general, manufacturing engineering technology. So then after that, work study came into play. Thanks to all the different DANs I had encountered, pretty much they gave me the opportunity to work with these CNCs on a creative basis. I have a 3D printer at home because of the internship that came from G-Create. When I first started, I had to go to Paragon Acura, where I worked as a parts and service manager. I got different scholarships, like example being Automotive Hall of Fame scholarship. And in addition, I have the LSAMP. I'm an LSAMP recipient. That's a major stipend that's for people of color. And really speaking, it's just all dealing with engineering. All those different cases and opportunities that I've gained all started out from that one Hot Wheels car. Just remember that. That one Hot Wheels car started to a collection, but it really made me, like Devontae had mentioned, it's a good sense of self-reflection. I personally have 3 journal entries inside 3 journal books inside my book bag on a constant basis, because every single book has given me a different aspect of how I see my life, past, present, and future. And ever since then, with that sense of reflection, I just write down every single entry about how I feel, what I plan on doing in the future, and I can get my answers set just asking myself the same questions on a constant basis.
For me, when I joined the STEAM Center, I just went in the design and engineering pathway, not really knowing what I wanted to do. Then I joined the robotics club, which made me realize that I wanted to do mechanical engineering. And we prepped the robot from start to finish, but sadly we couldn't go to competition because of COVID. But all the hands-on experience that I did in the class made me know what I want to do now.
Yeah, like with me, like growing up, I kind of took like note of who was around me. Like in my neighborhood, there was this old lady who had a nephew, and he like kind of he was like my bigger brother. Even I'm the oldest in my family, but I'd seen him as a bigger brother. And when he went to college, he kind of studied in law. He's a lawyer now in Florida. And like ever since then, I kind of like took note. Even though I check in with him now every now and then, and like that was like what kind of influenced me to pick my major as political science. But also with being a part of STEAM, I kind of like took into film, and like the classes I had with Sean and James kind of took note of that as well, as to why I'm now like, even though I'm a poli-sci major now, I'm still working in the film industry, all collective together.
So like I said earlier, I am in school to be, my major is psychology and my minor is human services. I can relate to a lot of the things that Kira said and to why I chose this major. It's always been my passion. When I was younger, I felt like I didn't really have someone to speak to about my emotions or how I felt. I always kept them bottled up inside. So I always said, you know what, I want to be that person that's there for young adults, basically.
For me, I didn't really know what I wanted to do until in my high school, one of my past teachers put a camera in my hand. And ever since then, we just been doing like, she created a club and it became like a whole bunch of like photo shoots. And then that's when the STEAM Center was introduced to me, and I was told that there was a film and media program. And I was like, I didn't really see it as a career because I didn't know it could be a career until my instructors at the time, Mr. Sean and James, they introduced me to like a whole different side of field when it's like film on the other hand and then media on the other side. And then ever since then, it was just a click to me because I would say like ever since we started working on like the horror film my senior year, that's when I realized that I was passionate about working with a camera, working with the equipment, and that this is what I wanted to do for my career.
Okay, so this was asked before, but I'm not sure that it was actually answered during the alumni mixer. But what is one piece of advice you would give your high school self now?
I would say to pace yourself and trust yourself and be a kid. Stop trying to be like ahead all the time because I was always that kind of person to always feel like, oh, I have to be here, I have to be here, I have to be here. But in actuality, I just needed to be where I was. I just needed to be a kid and enjoy, like having fun. I always thought like I had to enter the workforce, so I had to start working, I had to do this, and I missed out on a lot of things because of that. So I would tell myself, be a kid.
If I had to give myself advice, my high school self, particularly when I attended STEAM, I'd say as much as I did take advantage of the opportunities here, I felt like I didn't leverage my professional skills as much as I could have in regards to having a network of 400 plus businesses right here in the Navy Yard and, being in the fabric of the Navy Yard as a school that's in a work setting. I feel like I should have took more initiative to go out, introduce myself more to some of these business partners, and create opportunities for myself. Though they were abundant here through the STEAM Center, not many of them were curated to what my interests were at that moment, except for that huge tiny house project. So I feel like if I were to give myself advice, and even everyone else advice, either current seniors or scholars that are coming into STEAM, is just know that you can create opportunities for yourself with the connections that you have here on the Brooklyn Navy Yard, especially the small businesses here that, whose owners have so much value to offer and would not mind having a job shadowing opportunity, internship, or just speaking with you on Zoom for 10, 15 minutes. You can learn a lot more in those conversations than maybe 2 semesters of college. So it's really stepping out of your comfort zone, speaking to professionals, and creating opportunities for yourself.
So I kind of define my high school experience in 2 parts, before STEAM and then after enrolling in STEAM. Before I was in STEAM, I was going through a lot. My grandmother, who was my guardian, had passed away, and then my brother, sadly, was a victim of suicide. And so, honestly, I would just tell myself that things do get better, and you hear that all the time, but I don't think I realized how wonderful my life would be and how much joy I would find in the future. And I would tell myself to just to choose hope and to remain positive. And I was never someone that wallowed in sorrow, but there were times that I just felt like I'd lost it all. I had no motivation. And I really feel like that's something important that I would remind myself. And then, after enrolling in STEAM, the best piece of advice I can give myself is to have more fun, right? Because of my experiences with my loss, I had become kind of stoic. And after finding STEAM, and I was really passionate about cooking, I find that at times I took things a little too seriously. And I did remind myself that I was a student and I was a kid. I had recognized the opportunity presented to me, and I did everything to ensure success for myself. And at times, that pressure really impacted me and then my peers in negative ways because that manifested in negative habits. I was competitive at times. I was unlikable. I was really, really arrogant. So I would just remember myself, after enrolling in STEAM, to just be fun and let loose and relax and to just enjoy everything.
I think one of the biggest aspects within me in high school was obviously I was always trying to look for opportunities, but I wasn't really as proactive and as motivated because, in the sense of, I needed to see how automotive would connect with all the stuff that I had going on. And it was a little bit complicated, to be honest. I know that as much as I said that it was very seamless, it was just the aspect of there's so many opportunities that are available for me as I broadened my range of how I understood engineering in general, that eventually when I wanted to pinpoint and specify which one I wanted to do, it wasn't until maybe my third year of college to actually find that out. And I think that there's mainly two philosophies that I follow by. Number one is definitely listen twice as much as you speak. Because realistically, there are people that are in this world that are willing to network you in that aspect, and then there's others that take advantage of you. And if you don't find that sense of respect for yourself, they will walk right over you in any type of way. And I don't think that, don't take that with a bad sense or a bad connotation, but literally in that aspect, you have to find those ways to create the opportunity. And as Nathan had mentioned, it's a piggybacking of what I'm saying, to be proactive. Because as I mentioned before, even though there's many opportunities available for you, you really do have to take the chance in your life to dedicate your time to do these things. And as Devontae had mentioned, before STEAM, I actually, immediately before I started STEAM, I was able to study abroad in China for a month and a half. So it wasn't until I learned about Chinese since the 6th grade where I just thought, you know what, it would be a great opportunity to just go to China, and they had it available for me thanks to a person named Isaac Guerrero, which is hilarious. But long story short, due to that ironic feeling, I felt like if I'm gonna follow up as a Guerrero, I'm a little bit inspired, and we're not even related. But I was like, you know what? If he went to China and he's someone that looks like me and I had a huge afro at the time, I'm gonna follow up and do the same exact thing. And that's exactly what I did. I created my own experience from that point on. So as a way to improve myself, if I was in my high school years, definitely listen twice as much as you speak. And then the other second philosophy, which I can say it in this way. There's two things in life. Rule number one, don't tell anyone everything that you know. I'm done.
With me, one thing I tell myself in high school is to network, because you never really know who you know if you think about it. But like me now, now I understand it's not really who you know, it's what you know. It's not what you know, it's who you know. And that goes to that's across all boards and across all fields professionally. And it's just something I'm not picking up on, with folks that come through STEAM Center, with guest people that come in as guest events. I would make sure to get the contact information afterwards, and maybe I don't know, something can happen later down the line for my career, as well as to benefit them for both parties. So that's something I'd always keep that's something I always remind myself on a daily basis.
So a piece of advice that I would tell myself, my high school self, is to go for it and not to hold myself back. And I say this because I was a part of had a lot of commitments. And when it came to social activities and stuff like that, I would get in my own head and, talk myself out of things. And I regret a lot of those times that I did because, I had the potential of being greater than I am now. And I feel like that would have helped build me more than.
One thing that I would tell my high school self is to be confident with who you are and your work. In high school, I was always the type of person to be quiet, not really raise my hand or show my work. But from being here at STEAM, it really pushed me out of my comfort zone to show my work and show who I am as a person. And from that, it has opened a lot of doors for me.
For me, I would tell myself to get out of my comfort zone and put myself out there a bit more. Because as I moved from Trinidad to the States, I didn't really want to talk to people that much, especially because of how strong my accent was. And I didn't really want anyone to make fun of me, but I go inside myself, put myself out there about more.
Okay. Would anyone else like to share? Yeah, so do we have any questions for the panelists, either virtual questions in the chat or in-person questions from any students who are present? Yes.
So this is for Devante and Nakosha, because I knew you guys were both in the culinary arts pathway. In some way, shape, or form, how has the culinary pathway helped you decide? Like, was culinary always your passion, or did you want to pursue in something else other than that? Or
You talk a lot, so let me just.
and if
I'm
you
gonna
and
finish
if
real
like
quick. I'm gonna finish real quick.
and like from your experience,
You're not wrong.
Okay, so culinary wasn't really like always my passion. Like it became a hobby after I, became a part of STEAM. But I would say like because my major is psychology, the hospitality management aspect helped me work well with people, if that makes sense. Okay, that's it.
yes,
So really quickly, I will say this about Nakosha. Nakosha and I were in the same team when we were in the kitchen, and so she might not know this, but I really got to watch her transform. Pretty much since the jump, I was the only kid that was really heavily interested in culinary arts. But as the semester progressed, Nakosha opened herself up more to that idea of cooking, and she expressed that she had always cooked with her family, and us two together, we were really, really involved in like cooking and seasoning, and we had these crazy creative ideas that we created in the kitchen. So I really would like to just note that because that was just so amazing. But I had always loved to cook. Again, I was raised by my great grandmother, and she pretty much was responsible for feeding the entire family. She was the matriarch, and I spent my youth at her hip, at her side, at the kitchen. And I love to tell people that she knew I was a chef before I knew I was a chef, right? I told you guys earlier I had all these interests and all these goals for myself, and none of them were cooking, right? I watched MasterChef, and I was like, that's easy, I could do that. I watched my grandmother cook, and I go, I help her all the time. But I hadn't considered, cooking and being a chef as a career until I came to the Brooklyn STEAM Center and actually developed these trade-specific skills and knowledge. So, yeah.
That was a good question.
Hey guys, so I have a few questions that were sent to me via the messages. By the way, thank you for hanging out in there in the Zoom. I really appreciate you guys coming in and logging in and sending in your questions. So I have 5 questions for you guys sent by the people that are watching the Zoom. The first one is, what is the secret to success, in your opinion, of the Brooklyn STEAM Center? Like what do you like? What makes the STEAM Center to you guys that you graduated different than any other school?
I'd say like the last question to answer the last part you said. I'd say the community, the staff, and the way how they engage with the students. Like it doesn't feel like a school; it feels like home, if that makes sense. And here we're more hands-on, so it's not like we're sitting in a classroom just watching the teacher teach and talk to us. So it's more so like we're actually engaging and working with our hands, and like the teachers are more involved with us. Like it's way better than I would say my home school when I was in high school.
Second question, what advice would an alum give to yourself if you could time travel back to their tenure at Brooklyn STEAM Center? Like,
Can you repeat
like
that?
if you were to travel back in time, what would you be able to tell yourself now that you graduated and are living life? You did? Okay. Upon reflection, how would the alumni describe their perspective of their experience when they were students? Has it changed now that they graduated? Like, what's your perspective of it?
I'm gonna say this one thing that's very, very important to understand. In high school, the loop of how much people that you get to see on a daily basis is constant. That's one thing I'll say for sure. The same friend group that you had within high school and the other groups that you get to notice and stuff like that, it tends to stay within during those days. But when you go to college, that's when everything seems to transition because after every college class pretty much, even based on majors in general, everyone tends to branch out from that point on. So I guess in that sense, it really does spread your horizons, but it is a great example of why you should network in those senses because those people of those high school students out there, like I always said, like the squad that I have, we're down packed like that. But in terms of the goals that we have set up might be completely different from how we started out in high school. So I say that for sure. Just remember that transition of how it looks like from pre-high school to after high school, it is a very mean change, but it's great to be adaptive in that sense. In that sense, yes. In that sense, yes. I will say that for sure. Because like I said before, from the class of 19, I started out in boys and girls. Like all the class of 19 people pretty much started out in boys and girls. So in that sense, absolutely. To going from here to Brooklyn Navy Yard, like as one of the previous alumni had said, it is a sense of home, and you do notice that here, especially in the Navy Yard, than you would see in boys and girls.
Not only that, but the school is constantly improving. From when we were here, like when I was here in 2019 to now, they have after-school programs. Like we didn't have that. They have a yearbook. Like they have student government. Like this is all.
I heard
the stuff that
cybersecurity
really,
too.
Yeah, yeah. Like, and they have podcasting. Like this is. I wish I had that available to me when I was in STEAM at the time. You want to talk? Oh hell no.
I can agree with Nakosha. Being here, like working here for a year and a half compared to like when I was a student, it is a lot different because it is constantly improving, it's constantly changing. But what I can say is the family dynamic that we have here is still getting stronger. So that part doesn't change. So I would say that yes, it's different, but it's different in a good way.
With that said, if you had the opportunity to come back to the Brooklyn STEAM Center as a student, is there anything that you would do differently?
I'll be in every pathway.
I agree. I would try every single pathway, especially culinary.
Thank you.
Because it looks fun.
Thank you.
But unfortunately, we can't try every pathway. So
Four of us here are part of the first cohort year. And you guys don't know this, but we really got out of the mud. I know it was hinted at earlier, but this beautiful building wasn't constructed yet, and so each of the pathways were scattered throughout other New York City Department of Education high schools. And so I often joke that I wasn't going to leave this building because I was only truly here at the Navy Yard for half a semester. So if I could do it again, I would, and I wouldn't leave that kitchen because, we didn't have that kitchen for the majority of our time here at STEAM.
This one I'll answer correctly. In terms of the opportunities that came from D&E, I mean, especially from the boys and girls side, we had the FTC competition, and I was trying to go for FRC during the time. I think Gasly knows about that for sure. I think one thing I'll say for sure is I would love to be here, especially during my high school years. The D&E stuff that we were introduced was just a completely brand new light in terms of how it relates to my automotive side. But there was so many CAD modeling licenses, like the AutoCAD, Autodesk Inventor. I had the OSHA 10. I mean, I would say primarily got 2 out of the 3. But but I would definitely say for sure, in high school, I would have stayed in the Navy Yard more than I would have stayed in Megger. No shots fired, but I mean that.
Shots fired. Shots fired.
All right, this is my personal question. For each pathway, is there anything that you would add to the curriculum or you would take away from the curriculum?
Okay.
Each pathway.
I'm from the culinary arts pathway. This is my own little idea that I would want to add, like a recipe book, like a STEAM recipe book. That would be so cool.
I'm in this incredible position where now I'm teaching, and so I do have the chance to add and modify the curriculum, so I'll definitely keep that project in mind. But I will say that I think we really need to hone in more on the hospitality side of culinary arts because it is a culinary arts and hospitality management program. And I think that we do a sufficient job as it is now, but I think it can be improved. When I was teaching at Food and Finance, they had really figured out a way to integrate both the hospitality aspect and the culinary and pastry aspect of, this industry that I'm in. I think that we should really be integrating more core academic subjects into our lessons, right? So I should be integrating kitchen math, right, and food costing and recipe conversions more into the curriculum so that not only do the students get a heightened feel of what's actually required in the industry, but it's also supplementing their math and arithmetic skills from their regular partner schools.
One thing I would add to the curriculum, when I was a student, I was in the film media pathway. I would kind of try to ensure that the students in that class would kind of have tours within film and production spaces within the Navy Yard. Because when I was a student here, we worked on projects, but we didn't see the real deal. So now me actually working in the space with actors and DPs and things of that nature, it would make sense, I believe, for students to actually interact with them on a basis while being a student on the Navy Yard.
I would like to add, Ghastly. When I was going here, we actually went to Real Arc, which is upstairs on the 8th floor, and we were able to work in a space where actors, filmed. Even though they weren't on site, we actually were the actors. So, so we did get that exposure. I'm sorry that you didn't get to experience
first
that.
year I didn't have much experience on that, so.
Well, this wouldn't be an addition to a pathway, but an addition to every pathway. And I think for the senior year, a collaborative project. We have an arcade machine right here. We have a bench over here made by construction and D&E, and then we have the arcade made by CSIT and construction, right? And I feel like if we did a yearly thing during the senior year and create a collaborative project and make it graded, maybe, I don't know. I feel like it would be fun.
In regards to construction, there's honestly not much I'd change right now. I think, doubling down on building the tiny house project that the seniors are currently working on now and that our junior cohort is also going to get a jump on, and really finding a way to have our projects benefit the community, because one of our mottos here is community. So how can we utilize projects from our pathway to benefit somebody either on the yard or somebody within the Brooklyn area or even abroad, and serve them, bring value to the world from the projects we work really hard on in the shop?
One thing that I would add to the film and media curriculum is working more with the media side, with broadcasting, what we're doing right now, because because from my years and from what I've seen, we've only been working with the cameras, the DSLRs and the C100 and 200. We've never really worked on a sound engineering board or had an in-person podcast with 101 or with a whole entire group.
Hello. Okay. So in terms of what I see from D&E, I'm a little bit biased because I really can't speak further from past the point of where I graduated from. But in terms of my basis of how I see it from my degree, I think one of the biggest aspects is, of course, having CAD modeling as many softwares as possible. I would say with respect to if you can do Autodesk Inventor, AutoCAD, and also SolidWorks, that's the main three hard hitters. Revit as well, or something that deals with Rhino. I mean, obviously, with respect to CNCs, you got to learn about G-code. I would say within my curriculum of my classes, the first thing we got to learn about is how to write it, and then also use CAM softwares like me using Mastercam. And in addition, I would say this is a bit of a minor case that I feel like is very exchangeable between other programs, the use of Microsoft Excel. I really feel that that's a great software that should be used between all pathways because that's not only used for the financial aspect, but it's used to graphically and visually see things. And I remember from like one of our first lessons that we had in STEAM was to find out what type of learner we are. Tactile, visual, and auditory learners. And primarily from that percentage alone, I saw hands-on, which is tactile learners, and visual learners more than I see auditory. And so I think that those are the main cases I will explain. And the final case that I'll speak more for D&E is also the sign of fabrication. I really feel that obviously welding is going to be one of the biggest, and I would say more the better opportunity for blue collar jobs. So if you can include welding in some type of case, or you could bring someone from the industry involving that, I promise you, you're going to find more students that's going to be more involved in hands-on learning.
Did CSIT share?
For the CSIT, there's not much to change. Since I was a student, and as many of you know, CSIT was split apart to cybersecurity and full stack development, which that itself is already amazing. I wish I had that when I was a student because it would allow me to go more into depth into which path specifically I wanted to go into. So that itself, it's already an improvement, and it is still in the works. So I'm very excited to see what brings up next for us.
One more thing that I would like to add for Media Pathway is like not only getting our Adobe Premiere certification, because with film and media, there's like a numerous wide of certifications that we would want to try and get. And since we have that ability in STEAM, because like not a lot of people when we graduate, we want to be editors. Like there's people that want to be like dealing with like graphic design or Photoshop. So like, since we have that access here, we rather just like get certifications for that. That way we could pursue that as a career.
So I understand, we took all that down, so that's really going to be useful. One of the things that I always say is that on this panel we have different cohort years. This is actually, believe it or not, the first year since the STEAM Center started that a graduating class will be at the Brooklyn Navy Yard for 2 years. Due to COVID, due to not being here the first year and a half, and due to the remote learning options in 2021. So this is the first cohort that's going to be full 2-year pathway at STEAM at the Brooklyn Navy Yard. And so the STEAM Center should always continue to improve. Schools should always continue to improve. And I know that some people feel a certain type of way. We didn't have this, we didn't have that, but we wouldn't better ourselves if we did have those things. And so I do want to thank all of you today for your feedback and your participation. I think that this is the reason why I said our first annual is because even though there wasn't a lot of people here per se, this is going to be recorded, and I know people are going to watch it because of the impact that it has on students. Some of the students on the panel will tell you that I used to volunteer them to do these kinds of things, which is fine. One of the students said I still do, which is okay, because that's really how you get comfortable being uncomfortable. And for a lot of reservations and a lot of people who have told me that they're afraid to speak, I think everybody did an exceptional job. So thank you all for that. Thank you guys for watching. Shout out to Mr. Chavez and the podcasting crew and the recording crew, okay, for their assistance in this. Yes, and I hope you enjoyed it and have a great night. Thank you, panelists. I want to give the panelists a round of applause as well. That's extra, but thank you, guys.